if you've DM'd before, you know that players are out to ruin your life, right? That's their goal. That's their purpose. All right, not necessarily, but um, let's just say you can't plan for everything, right? So how do you manage, let's say, when a player steps kind of like out of boundaries or maybe outside of things that you anticipated?
Yeah. Um, when making a lot of the decisions for your campaign in your world, um, this is gonna be a hard one to explain, but try and keep everything a little bit generic. Um, Keep it so that if, say, the players, have heard of this monastery, maybe they don't know it's in the mountains. But there's a secret monastery. It's a legend lore. It's just a secret monastery that houses this wonderful weapon somewhere within the world. And until they actually decide to pursue that quest, if they decide to, then they start to kind of learn more about it and where it's at. But until then, it's kind of a legend, but it's something that's probably pertinent to your campaign and moving forward. The players never decide to go after it. They never decide to look into it more. You can change that and house that generically and move it around in your world to place in front of players, to keep the campaign moving. Um, and so by keeping things a little bit more generic and not just baking everything in with a nail when you start the campaign, allows you to be a little bit more flexible. Um, and maybe the things that maybe this weapon is not something that they need, for the final boss or whatever. It might help,
Yeah,
but if they decide not to go after it, that's their choice.
sure.
Depending on how sandboxy you want to be, um, a lot of the pertinent information is something that you want to keep generic. I had, as an example, a campaign, a cultist campaign, where based off of the Princes of the Apocalypse module, and the players were in this town, found out that all the leaders of the town were kind of part of the cult that was nearby, or at least, conversed with them and talked with them and didn't really do anything about the cultists. And they ended up infiltrating this group with one of the players to get some inside information. And when they decided, after they came out of the meeting, they decided to just blow everyone up, like fireballs, flame strikes, they just mounted an assault
Classic player move.
on on the leaders of this whole town. Like they just
Yeah.
wiped out the council of this town, like just like that. And it was a panic moment decision. Completely threw me off as a DM. Um, and so moving on down the line, I had to kind of turn this into an investigation. The players decided to return to the town, and they had just found out that they were investigating the fact that everyone was murdered, and they decided to leave. But in this moment when that happened, there was a cave that was part of another quest that they decided to just not have anything to do with, that had some magic items that I really wanted to give the players. I had custom made a bunch of magic items for the players. And so in this moment, I decided to give these magic items to each one of these, high leveled, or not high level, but high octane members of this council, these civilians, kind of like heirlooms. And now, as they looted, these diplomats, they had these items. That's not exactly information, but it was something that I could move around
Sure.
based on what the players' decisions were and what they wanted to do. It was something that I wanted to reward the players with. Um, and I decided to move it to that point rather than keeping it a mystery over in the cave that they never decided to go visit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so I like that because I've done that same thing quite a bit, right? I've had I've had I've had plenty of let's see, side quests, adventures that, like, I've got like riddles or different things like that set up, and like a couple different tiers before you can even reach to the point where you're supposed to go. And I've had players that walk up there, it's like, "To open sesame," and the door just like, I'm just like, frick, like how did you see right through that? Like they just like, the riddle was not hard, or like they walk up and like one of the players just is just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like cut my arm open and place my blood on this and see what happens. And lo and behold, like, of course the door opens. I'm like, how the heck would they even guess that, right? Like, super random. And I've also had other ones where, where sometimes as DM, I'm like, oh crap, like I got to switch this situation up because like this is going nowhere, right? And so you've got to like either somehow work in some hints or things like that for players to like, solve problems, or maybe your big bad guy was way stronger than you thought and you just about one shot a player off the bat and you're like, whoa,